the next process we need here is the add types. So when I click on the new type button, notice it loads a page with the URL console/types/add. So first thing we need is to create a couple new routes. So I'm going to create a new route, and this one is going to be console/types/add. And this route will initiate from our types controller. Just like our login, we're going to have two different routes for this process. We're going to have one that displays the actual form, and we'll call that add form. And then a second one that is going to process the form. So with this one, we still want our middleware, and we want our visitor to be logged in. And then the second route is going to be the same URL, except this time, just like our login process, we're looking for a post. So when someone clicks add type, it's going to load console/types/add. It's going to use our types controller and the add form method. That page will simply display a form. And then when that form is submitted, it's going to post the form data to the same URL, except because it's posting, it will initiate our second route. So let's start by adding our methods to our controller. So open up our types controller, and we need two methods. We need an add method and an add form. So our first one is public function add form, and in here we're not receiving any data, so it's going to simply return our add form view. So I'm going to return a view. The name of our view is types.add. And if I save and refresh, okay, notice our URL was now caught by our routes. It initiated our add form method. The add form looks for types.add, which we could not find because we haven't created that yet. So even though we get these errors, quite often these errors are progress. Let's create that file. Scroll down to my types folder here. I'm going to create a new file called add.blade.php, and let's add a simple add form. I'm just going to jump over to our list and grab our header, so everything from here up. Then we need our section, so we'll grab that. And then our closing tags. And I'll change our title to add type. And in here, we're going to add our form. So with our form, the method is post. That will make sure that the proper route is initiated and the proper method in our controller. Our action is going to be the same URL, so console/types/add. And I want to turn off the browser validation. I will handle validation in our methods. And I'm just going to add some margin at the bottom here. Inside our form, we're going to add our cross-site scripting function. And now types only have one column, and that is the title. So I'll just open up a div, put in some margins here. And add a label. And our input. So this is just going to be a text box. And finally, a submit button. Okay, add some W3 styles, make this a W3 button, and we'll turn it green. And we want it to say add type. And then at the bottom of our form, if we just change our mind, we just want to link back to our types list. And if I save and now refresh, all right, so we are getting our form. If I click back, make sure that's working, and new. And now if I click add, we now get a add method does not exist in our types controller. So again, this is progress. Our form is posting to the add URL. Our route is catching that post, but it cannot find the add method in our types controller. So let's return to our types controller, and we're going to add a public function called add. And in this method, everything we need to know is inside the request. So take our request, and built into request is a validate tool. So it's going to take all that request data and validate it using our specified validation rules. Now Laravel has a lot of great validation tools built in. For this one, this is quite simple. I just want the title to be required. And that's all we need for this one. Now, built into this validate tool, if any of these validation rules are broken, it will automatically redirect back to the page it came from and allow the visitor to fill out that content. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just go DDD add type. This is where I'm going to add my type code. But before we get there, let's just see what happens if I refresh and submit that form. So what happened there is I submitted the form, it hit my add method. Notice we did not see add type. The attributes variable here, we took our request data and validated the data. The title was empty, so it redirected to the page it came from, and it's allowing us to fix our form content. Now from the look of our page, nothing happened. So when this redirect happens, because the title was not valid, there is additional information available in my view, including validation errors. So I'm going to go back to my view, and after my form, I want to display an error message if an error message exists. So open up PHP and just say if, and there's a variable called errors, which contains all of the errors that exist in this page. I want an error message related to title, and there could theoretically be multiple errors related to title. So I want the first error. So if an error exists for title, then let's display that error message. So for now, I'm just gonna go down one line, use a span, make this red, and output that error. So we just say output from our errors, the first error for our title, and close span. And I'll just refresh here and click add, and now we get our error message. We go back to our controller. If the validation passed, so for example, if I fill this out, we add a new type and click add. Now my method is getting to my DDD function. So we can take that out, and this is where we want to actually add our new type. So we create a variable called type, and we say that this is a new type. Notice I've already included my type model. Then we can specify that the title is equal to, from our attributes, the title. So along with performing our validation and redirects and errors, inside our attributes is all of our form data that we had just attempted to validate. So I'm going to take the title from our form data and place it into our type. And in this case, that's all we need. So I can take that type and now save. Then I want to return to my list page. So I'm going to redirect to console/types/list. And I'm going to add a message. So with message type has been added. And save. And we'll go back here. Let's go back to our list. Click new type. Put in our new type title. Click add. And now we get both our message and our new type. Now the one thing we didn't get to see with this process is because we only have one form element and it's either valid or not valid, what happens if I fill out half a form or I provide invalid data, something other than blank? So just to see this process, I'm going to open up my types controller. And I'm going to take our title, and let's for now just say that this has to be an email. So I'm going to save, provide something, and click add. And now we get an error message, but notice the data that I provided is now gone. When you're filling out a form, if the visitor provides half of the data or it provides invalid data, we don't want those form elements to reset. So even though it's not really applicable to this form, it's a habit we want to get into. In my view, in each form element, I want to make sure that data from the previous submission does not get removed if the form is not processed. So I'm going to add here a value attribute, and Laravel has a nice little function called old. We just say old title. And this will make sure that this text box is pre-populated with any old content. And sometimes that content will come from the previous form submission, or in the case of an edit, which is what we're doing next, that content will come from the database. So now if I fill out this with invalid data, that invalid data remains there so our user or our visitor can fix it. And let's take off that email validation because our title does not need to be an email. But now we can confirm that our form elements are maintaining previous form content.